Hello, welcome to Local Matters, featuring the resources and resilience of our South Shore towns and our human family. We're still here and we'll use this space for as long as it takes to share some of the good works and good news happening around us. I'm Elizabeth. Let's get started. The Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America organization is stepping up to keep kids connected and supported during this time of social distancing, school closings, and stress related to the coronavirus. Plymouth resident Matt Lewis is a proud big brother who told us about his start with the organization and how he has had to adapt his mentorship in current times.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt Lewis. I am a volunteer with Big Brother Big Sister. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what the organization does for people, and specifically the kids and family that it serves. So I've been volunteering for about 4 or 5 months now. I decided to start volunteering as part of a New Year's resolution to myself. One of the things that I had said was I was going to start replacing mindless scrolling with some kind of a more productive activity. So I decided instead that I could be a little bit more productive and go out and actually volunteer and try and create some change and help someone that needed a little bit of help. So part of the mission of Big Brother Big Sisters is to help connect families and kids and provide them with a mentor. So someone kind of outside of their family dynamic or their social support network, and trying to just give them someone else to go out and do fun things with. Like for example, I take the kid that I mentor, we usually go like trampoline parks, and let me tell you, it's really fun to be a kid again. Even when you go to these things on outings, it's even good for the mentor to kind of just like get out and do something fun, because we all kind of experience a lot of stress outside of life. So yeah, one of the things I wanted to talk about too was just like what we do in the midst of the COVID. So what we've been doing actually is there's this online game called Fortnite, and I don't play online games like that, but that's something we've been doing as an alternative to our meetings. Which, you have to be a little bit creative with it, but I wanted to thank you guys for watching this, and I hope you got something out of it.
You can help shape a child's future by volunteering, starting a workplace mentoring program, or making a donation to help fund the ongoing mentoring support unique to Big Brothers Big Sisters. Visit the website to learn how. Plymouth's Poet Laureate Stephen Delbos is back. In collaboration with the Plymouth Public Library, Stephen held a live poetry reading on Sunday, April 26th, and sent us this video so you can enjoy it too.
My name is Stephen Delbos. I am the Poet Laureate of Plymouth, Massachusetts, and I'm coming to you live today from my own library through the Facebook page of the Plymouth Public Library. And I'm honored to be here. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you all for tuning in. This is hopefully going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully this will kind of take you out of the moment of the shelter in place or the lockdown order. So thanks so much, and just give me 1 minute and I will be right back. So this is the first time I've ever done this before, and I hope that it works and everything will go smoothly. These are really strange times for all of us, and it's a trying time and a difficult time, and I think it's a time where we need poetry more than ever. So I hope the next 30 minutes or so will be a diversion for you, hopefully will be inspiring for you, and will kind of tide you over for the moment until we can have actual events at the library and throughout the town of Plymouth. It's really an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to have been named the Plymouth Laureate of Plymouth, the Poet Laureate of Plymouth. And I would like to take a minute to thank the committee who appointed me, Stephen Cole, Dave Kindy, Jennifer Harris of the library, Amy Naples, and Heather Casey. This is especially meaningful for me because growing up in Plymouth, the library, both the old library on North Street and the quote-unquote new library on South Street, were really formative, really important for me. as a boy, a young kid growing up, learning to read down on North Street, and then as a teenager, going to the library, taking out books, studying for the SATs, all of that stuff. I can honestly say that if it wasn't for the Plymouth Public Library, I wouldn't be a poet today. I wouldn't be a writer today. So this is an honor. I'm really happy to get a chance to do this. It's a bit surreal to do it under these current conditions, but that's where we are now, and looking forward to times when we can all get together in person. The reading today is going to be based around the theme of reading and the theme of libraries and the theme of books. Jennifer Harris from the library and I were talking about doing this, and it's a kind of perfect timing. It's National Poetry Month. It's also a time, I think, when we all need kind of inspiration more than ever. And hopefully you can find that over the next few minutes. So the first poem I'd like to share with you is called Small Talk. And this is the title poem from a new collection of poems that I have coming out later this year. And it's a poem in introduction. It's a poem saying hello. Small Talk. Tell me where you come from. People make umbrellas using raven wings. And once, when rain spraying a puddle in the park, you sat in the water up to your waist, wearing a navy blue corduroy skirt, and how there was never no other such spring. The next couple of poems I've written just for this reading, and they're both dedicated to the Plymouth Public Library, and mention some memories that I have of growing up in Plymouth and going to the library, both the old and new, as I mentioned. And there's also a few quotes I'd like to share with you, quotes about reading and books and libraries. The first is from Henry David Thoreau, who wrote, "Books are the treasured wealth of the world and the fit inheritance of generations and nations." Another writer I really admire, Franz Kafka, wrote, "A book must be an axe for the frozen sea within us." And then the Austrian linguist and philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein said, "The limits of my language are the limits of my world." And finally, the Latin grammarian Terentianus Maurus in the 2nd century AD said, "Every book finds its destiny according to the reader's capability." So in this poem, I'm thinking about reading, I'm thinking about the Plymouth Public Library. Jennifer Harris and I were talking the other day about the current situation in the library. The library's closed for now. They're going to be doing a soft opening here up in May, I think, and then hopefully we'll be opening again for visitors as usual very shortly. And there's a bunch of books right now that are in quarantine, locked in a room that, and no one can read them right now. And they're locked in a room until a time at which they are deemed to be safe to be read once again. And I was talking to her on the phone the other day and thinking about these books in quarantine. It just seems like such an interesting metaphor that I couldn't help myself. So this poem mentions that as well. It's called Fanfare for the Plymouth Public Library. And of course, we all know Aaron Copland's musical composition, Fanfare for the Common Man. And this is Fanfare for the Plymouth Public Library, a new poem just for this reading. Open your eyes like two tiny books and look at the library. Every page a paradox. Captured words give readers liberation. Volumes of amplitude and depth. The printed page flows both ways like a permeable mirror. The page pulls us in while projecting thought onto the receptive openness of the curious mind. I have borrowed many lives from the Plymouth Public Library, Every book finds its destiny according to the reader's capability. Now all those books locked in quarantine, purgatory, unread, unrealized, like waves across Cape Cod Bay that cascade and melt before reaching shore. Let me navigate my channel of library memories. Under August's magnifying sun, a teenage boy sits in the shadowed cool of a brick porch on South Street, reading the Kerouac, Bukowski, Essie Hinton, Herman Hesse, Henry Miller, Nut Hampson life works, awaiting his delinquent girlfriend's rusty white Pontiac to go for lunch. Years earlier, a child on a strawberry bicycle pedals up North Street, plastic book-stuffed bag hung from handlebars, and falls down with the awkward weight, jumping the curb to a bloody knee, laid out by his lust for reading. I read a bibliography of praise for the library. Hallowed be thy late fees, praise to microfiche, praise to those old rotating date stamps no one uses anymore, praise to the poets, novelists, economists, analysts, theorists, dreamers, historians, lounging in the stacks, praise to the digital card catalog and apocalypse research, praise to the Dewey Decimal System's calculated numerology, praise to free Wi-Fi and a quiet place to delineate life one web or paper page at a time, praise to librarians, their professional patience and soft-cover smiles. Readers of the world, unite. Open your eyes, those booklets of light. Enter the literal library. Sit and read the world. This next poem is a haiku. It's a haiku for the library, Plymouth Public Library haiku. And as a haiku, it's a very short 3-line poem. The first line of the poem has 5 syllables, the second 7 syllables, and the third 5 syllables as a kind of classic American or Anglophone haiku. And again, this is meditating on all of those books locked in quarantine. In the library, at night, the quarantine books read themselves to sleep. This next poem is a sonnet, and it's originally called Poem for Students, but it also could be called Poem for Readers. And it's getting into the dark side of reading. Maybe you didn't know reading had a dark side, but sometimes you get so involved in a book, you kind of lose your grip on the rest of the world and forget about all your responsibilities. And I'm reading a fantastic book right now. It's called Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Hellman, and it's a 1,000-page novel. It's composed in 1 sentence. It's really blowing my mind and keeping me from doing housework. It just came out last year. It was a finalist for the Man Booker Prize. I highly recommend it. This is Poem for Students and Readers. Words are underwater caves. Hold your breath. Diving, risk asphyxiation. All thoughts flounder in desolate light. Nervous fish, flitting shiners form schools. Elusive. This is to say fillet syllables. Heard of the vampire octopus? Strange beasts roam the melted sea floor where blood cannot bloom. Each line is a broken lung, a dark balloon, and craters swallow anchors. Never trust a snorkeler. Be very careful. Words are not completely fathomable. Furthermore, ignore poets on shore, who claim to clutch pearls. You might die poor and blind down there. Might not. Explicate that. The next poem is also in the same voice, in a kind of imperative voice, telling the reader what to do, which can be helpful and annoying depending on the mood you're in as a reader. This is a poem by a poet that I really admire named Frank Bedart, and his collected poems, which is called Half Light, is available in the library. And I've always been really positively impressed by the collection of poetry at the Plymouth Public Library. It never ceases to amaze me, the great books that are there. And so this poem is called Advice to the Players. It's by Frank Bedart, and it's from his book Half Light, Collected Poems, which I urge you all to go take out from the Plymouth Public Library, though not all at once, of course. Advice to the Players. And in this poem, Bedart is using that imperative voice, giving advice, but he's talking about creativity and the way that creativity and creation is something inherent in the human psyche, something we all need to do. Advice to the Players. There is something missing in our There is something missing in our definition, our vision of a human being, the need to make. We are creatures who need to make, because existence is willy-nilly thrust into our hands. Our fate is to make something, if nothing else, the shape cut by the arc of our lives. My parents saw corrosively the arc of their lives. Making is the mirror in which we see ourselves. But being is making, not only large things, a family, a book, a business, but the shape we give this afternoon, a conversation between two friends, a meal. This next poem I'd like to read is a translation from the Czech poet Vítězslav Nezval, and this is a book that I co-translated a few years ago. It came out in 2016. Nezval was a brilliant surrealist poet in the 1930s. This book is originally from 1937, and this poem is called The Library. In this section of the book, the poems are all dealing with kind of countryside scenes. The scenes are all kind of empty of people. It's as if it's kind of a Sunday in the countryside when no one's around. And indeed, in this particular library, there's no one there. It's an old library. It's kind of a defunct library, very unlike the Plymouth Public Library, which is such a vibrant place. This is the library. The library, in an unsuitable room, resembling a closet. A cat peeks from behind the books. No one will arrange. And detective paperbacks, fantomas, the stench of glue near, a cow waiting to be milked. Geese stretch their long necks and hiss at a cryptic volume that looks brand new. A key above the bookcase glitters like the one to the cellar or attic. In the corner, a rolled map. All of it belongs elsewhere. Blinds bound by a string agitate a fly that is particularly manic. Castles affixed to the landscape from the 19th century, just like the remnants of a chasuble draped over a chair with no armrest. Water trickles down the walls, drop by drop. A child's violin hangs on a wardrobe. A single long wilted bouquet set on the bookcase gnawed by a woodworm, the only inhabitant. And clearly woodworms aren't the only inhabitants of the Plymouth Public Library. Again, such a vibrant and active place. Here you see beyond Plymouth Rock, America's hometown in the 20th century. That's volume 1. This is volume 2. Fantastic books of Plymouth history that were published in part by the Plymouth Public Library. And I treasure those books and read them quite often, actually, especially lately as I've been doing a lot of research into Plymouth and its history and so forth. For me, reading, it's such an active part of my life. Books for me, are life itself in a way. And so much of my, the traveling I've done has been to go to places where books are set or writers have lived. And in that way, kind of taking the book off the shelf and making it real in the world. And this next poem is about that. It's called Visiting Dunbarton. And Dunbarton is a little town in New Hampshire. And it is the town where Robert Lowell, the Massachusetts poet Robert Lowell, his family cemetery is there. And that's where Robert Lowell is buried, in a little Lowell cemetery in Dunbarton in the middle of nowhere. Dunbarton's a very small rural town in New Hampshire. And the cemetery, the Lowell Cemetery in Dunbarton, it's in the middle of the woods, kind of impossible to find. And but I drove up there with my parents several years ago looking for this cemetery that we found. And that's what this poem is about. This poem was recently published in an anthology of New Hampshire poems called On and Off the Road, published by the New Hampshire Poetry Society. I really recommend that. This poem is Visiting Dunbarton. Highway north past the rest stop, where Robert Lowell's third wife made the driver pull over and beg, a family picnic for a nip of gin, her scotch, her nerves, veil, lace, ash black, en route to the burial. Tiny cemetery wreathed in forest, primeval, my father said twice, as we drove searching and found it. Dad pointed to the poet's grave first, as I had, years before, another plot, found his brother's first wife's stone, laid before I was born. My mother found a washer in the cemetery at Dunbarton. She gave it to me conspiratorially, fellow dreamer, stepping over rusted needles and pine cones to the car. A sense of closure. I love, this is some of my library here. Some of my library, it stretches into vast realms of the imagination. And I love one type of poetry I love. I love ancient Japanese and Chinese poetry of the Tang Dynasty, poets like Li Bo and Tu Fu, who were innovators of the haiku form and innovators of ancient Chinese poetry. And this is one of my favorite books. It's called Old Taoist, and it's the poetry of Kodo Yin, who was a 19th century Japanese poet and painter. He was kind of a throwback, the last of the ancient Chinese poets, or the ancient Japanese poets rather, but the kind of last of the ancient poets holding out in the 19th century. This poem's called Reading Books. Reading books, and what have I accomplished? Still emptily I cherish perennial hopes. I've striven to emulate supreme virtue, but alas, white hairs bring age so readily. So I turn to ordering my vegetable garden. Last night the first spring plants came up. The green mountains newly washed by drizzle. I start to feel this secluded life is good. My friends take pity on my poverty, though they don't take pleasure in the way I've chosen. From ancient times, true gentlemen have seen amassing goodness as a treasure. Wonderful book, Kodo Yin, and that is translated by Jonathan Chavez. I'd like to read you a poem from my collection, Light Reading. collection of poems that came out last year in 2019. And this is a poem about reading, but it's a poem about a feeling that maybe a lot of you are having these days, kind of cooped up at home, feeling like you've read all the books, you've listened to all your music, you've watched all the Netflix already, kind of this feeling of ennui, a feeling of boredom, of world weariness is setting over you, and even your favorite books, and don't do it for you anymore. And that's what this poem is about. It's for doubt and wind instruments. And the closing of the poem references Emily Dickinson's poem, A Narrow Fellow in the Grass, which is a poem about a snake. This is about waking up on a February morning. It's winter, it's snowing out, looking outside, knowing that you're going to be stuck in the house all day. You've been stuck in the house, for a while already, like we are now, and just feeling over the whole thing. I am listening to music, less than listless. Outside, deaf snow baffles edges of every open object. And if, oh glorious, if I were nay, Scotch sick almost, I would dance in my mind out in it, only thinking of myself and the maniacal warmth of this room built for living. A prayer is what we say when we cannot be sure. A dumb song. No, yes, no, yes, no, yes, is when one sees an erstwhile lover, the moment of a nosebleed. Who needs that? Oh, you, I do not know what you might be looking for, but my heart hurts this white February morning when books will not speak to me and words are not real enough or deep, you see. Hear me, narrow fellow, in this fallow silence. And speaking of Emily Dickinson, this is her poem by Emily Dickinson, There is no frigate like a book. There is no frigate like a book to take us lands away, nor any coursers like a page of prancing poetry. This traverse may the poorest take without a press of toll. How frugal is the chariot that bears the human soul. And a book really can be a chariot to bear the human soul, as Dickinson says here. It can be an escape. Books are powerful, have been for me my whole life. And I just think that, libraries are so important and more so than ever. So we support libraries and use all of the digital resources of the Plymouth Public Library. Just because the building is closed doesn't mean you can't take advantage of all the wonderful things they have to offer. Lots of online resources, and I encourage you to check them out. This is a poem by a famous poet who was also a librarian. Who could it be? Philip Larkin, the great British poet, also worked in a library his entire life. This is Library Ode by Philip Larkin. New eyes each year find old books here, and new books too, old eyes renew. So youth and age, like ink and page, in this house join, minting new coin. I'd like to read another poem. I'm going to go a little bit off the theme. This is a poem about storytelling rather than, reading books at the library. This is a poem of mine. It's called Ghost Ride, and it's about growing up in Plymouth up on Seaver Street and Allerton Street by the old police station and the old Registry of Deeds. They used to call that area Pill Hill because all the doctors lived up there in the 19th century, apparently. But it's on a hill, and that makes it great for doing things that kids do, like riding bikes down hills and rolling balls down hills and rolling bikes down hills, which is what this poem's about. If you don't know what ghost riding a bicycle is, it means when you let the bike go and ride without anyone on it. And that's what this poem is about. It's called Ghost Ride. In those untrammeled days of absolute summer adolescence, dinner was intermission before twilight's final act. Slow ungluing of sun down glassy sky, as trees' last gasps sent frantic bats skittering, drunken through thick and dark. Hunting insects and tennis balls we threw to make them turn, break neck, swarming the park. Someone stole the brand new chrome Huffy bike. Toothy black tires ours now, the 2-block tribe, and so we took it for the holy grail of ghost ride, spectral prank. Pushed bike rolling downhill, steadied by glass hands of gravity, swervy off road's edge, spinning spokes and red reflectors. In that divorcee neighborhood, Ron Derry was tallest and troubled, had the hatchet lifted from an unsuspecting shed, took it like a tomahawk to tires, one swift slash front and back, because this is what we are doing on the summit of that blacktop hill where we let the bike go. Now, still, I wonder, watching Mine's Super 8, the moment that bike turned, perfect at the intersection and, as if guided, glided past the courthouse, registry of deeds, town green, threaded long downhill to Main Street, through 2 lanes of cruising cars, hopped the curb and smashed a townie's whiskey-sipping sidewalk bench. We bolted. This August night at what is now our parents' house, vacationing, brothers sit until false dawn, drinking in citronella candlelight, projecting childhood off one other avid witness to the ghost. The last poem I'd like to read is also about storytelling. It's about legends. It's about Plymouth legends. This is a poem I wrote for the Plymouth Poet Laureateship, and it's called Poem for Bob Dylan, Allen Ginsberg, and the Sea Serpent of Plymouth Bay. Now, you might not have known that the Plymouth Bay did have a sea serpent, but indeed, there is dramatic and irrefutable evidence from Henry David Thoreau's journal. On June 14th, 1857, Thoreau, while he was visiting Plymouth, he wrote this, quote, "It seems the sea serpent was first seen in the bay between Manamet and Plymouth by a perfectly reliable witness many years ago. One morning he saw this monster with a head somewhat like a horse's, raised 6 feet above the water, and his body the size of a cask trailing behind. He was careening over the bay, chasing the mackerel which ran ashore in their fright and were washed up and died in great numbers." Now, you also might know that in 1976, Bob Dylan was in Plymouth with the Rolling Thunder Review Tour to kick off the tour at Memorial Hall. And there's a great documentary on Netflix by Martin Scorsese that has some amazing footage from Plymouth around this time. And the Bob Dylan album Desire, the photos on the cover of Desire are taken in right around the Mayflower and Plymouth Rock. The American poet Allen Ginsberg was with Dylan on that tour, and no one really knew what he was doing on the tour, but he seemed to be having fun. He was in full kind of hippie guru mode with finger cymbals that he was tinkling and just having a grand old time. So this poem is imagining Dylan and Ginsberg seeing the sea serpent of Plymouth Bay, which is mentioned in Thoreau's journal. The poem also mentions Dick Gregory, the great comedian and civil rights activist and writer who lived in Plymouth from the early 70s until he passed away just a few years ago. And finally, it mentions the word Moloch, which is a biblical word that Ginsberg often used in his poetry to mean kind of the evil of modern society. And this poem is written in the rhyme and the meter of the song Isis, which is on that album, Desire by Bob Dylan. Me and Ginsberg saw the sea serpent of Plymouth Bay, as we stumbled at a watering hole on Water Street, a long, black, oily beast swimming away, while the country's greatest poet helped me stay on my feet. A fellow traveler, Ginsberg, his job on the tour was not as of yet completely defined. When I got in trouble, he kept me from more. He was always my sight when the night made me blind. I'm getting distracted. The point is, the beast wrapped itself round the Mayflower's hull. It was 290 feet long at the least, with a horse's head, body half python, half whale. And it squeezed on that beautiful ship till the wood was groaning and shaking, and boy, we were shocked. We knew that it wasn't safe to stay where we stood, so Ginsberg and me took off toward Plymouth Rock. We climbed up the pillars and got on the roof. The sea serpent started to gargle in fury, and sincerely, I don't want to come off aloof, but from this point on, details get kind of blurry. Ginsberg got talking about this historic old town. Pilgrims, Wampanoags, the lobster, the height. A forefather's monument. Wait, the renowned Dick Gregory just moved here? This place is all right. The serpent kept squeezing. 'Twas getting obscene. We climbed down the pillars to see what we could do. In Pilgrim Park, I surveyed the scene. We'd come back tomorrow and take pictures too. We got to the state pier, and there was the serpent, dripping with water and drooling black ooze. By then, I was wondering just how much I'd spent at the fisherman's saloon drinking all that cheap juice. No matter. The serpent just gargled and squeezed until we believed the old Mayflower would crack. So I gave it a kick in the gills and said, "Please, man, get out of here, and don't ever come back." Then Ginsberg stepped up, jingling his finger cymbals, and chanted, "Toothy darkness, sick serpent of Moloch, beast swum from the deepest of misery's riddles, be gone by the power of the one Plymouth Rock." The serpent let go, and like a black blob of blubber, melted into the waves as it sank out of sight. And then me and Ginsberg, two cultured landlubbers, walked back to the tour bus to sleep off the fright. So from that night to this one, nobody has seen it. The sea serpent of Plymouth Bay disappeared. I've told you the story, and I really mean it. This happened. I lived it. I know it sounds weird. Tell me who doubts a man who is playing guitar. I travel the country in search of a truth that cannot be bought or caught in a jar. These legends that make up America's youth. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. This is the first of many readings. Hopefully the first, not too many live readings on Facebook. I hope the signal has been okay. I don't know. It's the first time I've done this, but I'm just so honored and thrilled and grateful to be your Plymouth Poet Laureate. We're going to be doing amazing things. There's going to be amazing events and programs and workshops and readings as soon as possible, this summer into the fall and on into next year. The laureateship runs until 2022, and I'm just really looking forward to it. And I thank Jennifer Harris at the library and the whole team at the library. Once again, I thank the whole laureate committee, and most of all, I thank you for tuning in. And I hope this has given you a little bit of joy, maybe a little bit of inspiration. I'm always looking to hear from you in any way, shape, or form. You can email me at plymouthpoetlaureate@gmail.com. And please check out the Plymouth Poetry Forum on Facebook. So be well, take care, wash the hands, read a book, have a smile, take a deep breath. I salute you, Plymouth and the world. Much love. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
The Mass Cultural Council is a state agency working to promote culture in all forms across the Commonwealth through grants, programs, and education. This week, the agency's Cultural Districts Program Manager, Luis Cotto, spoke with Julie Thompson via Zoom about what the Mass Cultural Council does and how it has adapted to the current health crisis.
So pleased to have Luis Cotto from the Mass Cultural Council. He is the program manager for all of the districts that make up the council. Welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about the Mass Cultural Council and what you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me on, Julie. Big ups to PAC TV and Access Television in general. You all are especially now providing incredible service to our communities. And yeah, I'm a program manager with the Mass Cultural Council. The Mass Cultural Council is your state arts agency. And I'll just read very quickly our mission, which is we work to elevate our rich cultural life in Massachusetts. We partner with communities across the Commonwealth to expand access, improve education, promote diversity, and encourage excellence in the arts, humanities, and science. Through our efforts, we make our state a better place to live, work, and visit for everyone. And those are the words, right? But what we do is just so much more, and now we're being called upon to do that. Just really quick on my role and the team that I'm with. I am Luis Cotto. I'm a program manager in the communities team for the Mass Cultural Council. Mm-hmm. The communities team works with 3 different buckets of various buckets that we have for people to access. I'm going to share a quick map here of our state to show who works with us. So we split the Commonwealth into these regions which mirror basically the Mass Office of Tourism, MAT, and then we have on our team 6 people. There are 4 officers and 2 program managers. The officers each have 3 regions to work with, and the managers have 2 along with their own programs that they manage. On our team, as you can tell, so for Plymouth over here, there's a wonderful young lady named Veronica Ramirez Martel who works with 3 different regions, including Plymouth County here. I work with Greater Merrimack and Metro West, but I also manage the Cultural Districts program, of which you'll see the shaded area, mm-hmm. as in Plymouth and Barnstable County, Easton, Situate, I believe, is in there. And I work with communities there. And when I say work with, the state of Massachusetts is one of the only states in the nation that allocates, where the state legislature allocates monies to the individual municipalities for arts and culture. Right. And hence what came out of that 40 years ago is the creation of what locally is known as the Local Cultural Council. So the mm-hmm. Plymouth Cultural Council, the Ashford Cultural Council, so on and so forth. They receive monies from the state legislature, and we help the LCCs work through, we administer those programs in conjunction with the LCCs, which in essence tend to be like the entities who hold the cultural vision of the community. And except in some cases where Northern Berkshire has they have 10 communities that work together. Acton Bucksborough do 10. Mid-Cape, there are about 5 that work together. Mm-hmm. Mostly, a majority of them, over 300 municipalities, have individual local cultural councils, and we work with them via that map.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot of different people, a lot of different areas that you cover. How has your organization and the artists adapted to this new reality that we are living in right now?
Great question. We've had to do like many and adapt via the Zoom conferencing, mm-hmm. and not Zoom, but just all of them, right? WebEx and Google and with the bumps that come with it, that type of technology. It's been great to see a lot of municipalities fully use their local access television now that they, are forced to do open meetings and, in via this platform. Yep. But yeah, that's been huge for us personally, right? Like I got the short end of the stick. So my office today is the kitchen. But for our communities, it's been it's been difficult. Like, these are our local cultural councils, are individuals who do this as a volunteer effort after the fact. Some of them are gigging musicians and artists. I think a lot of us have seen how performing artists have adjusted to this wonderfully by doing a host of live streams, and then to the extent that they have an electronic way of receiving those funds, $5, $10, $20 at a time. Visual artists who might have had an exhibit set up somewhere, a gallery exhibit, are hurting. And how do you really, there are virtual galleries out there, but how do you really capture seeing something live? But yeah, it's up and down, and we're trying to work. And as you said, 310 communities, each issue is different, and it's been a challenge, wonderful challenge that we take on to deal with all those artists and their individual problems.
Now, you've set up a relief fund for these artists. How does that work?
Yeah, we actually, this week, 275 artists will receive notice that they're getting a $1,000 grant from us. Basically, this comes going into our third quarter, and so what we did was we repurposed monies from everyone's pocket, everyone's bucket.
Right.
So I was able, from cultural districts, to allocate $6,000, and we pieced together, along with help from New England Foundation for the Arts, $275,000, which was spread to 1,000 people. And the way we did that was, it was a 2-week run, and we put the call out, and we basically said, we're going to allocate the 275 based on the percentage of artists that come from that region.
Okay.
So if 20% came from one region, 20% of those grants go to that region.
Yep, that sounds fair.
At the halfway point, what we did was we looked to see what region was not necessarily underrepresented, but that we felt had low numbers. Mm-hmm. And then we re-upped. We let people know, hey, don't forget, you still have a week. So it wasn't first come, first serve, which unfortunately is not equitable to people who might get it later, or might have, like, in the hill towns, they might have access issues with Wi-Fi. Right. We waited till the end. We dedicated those percentages towards the region. And then within that, we randomize who gets it, right? So even then, it's hopefully equitable. Right. And so we're sending out 275. And then what we're doing is we're keeping that randomized schedule so that once we get more monies, whether from the legislature or different philanthropic wings, we can continue to send out. Even if we get 5 tomorrow, we already have the next 5 who will receive it.
That's great. It keeps rolling. That's wonderful. What kind of upcoming events do you have taking place? So our events, and what I'll do is I'll just show really quickly, because I know this is airing after we talk. And so I'll do the share. So what I've been trying to tell people, not that, sorry. We do have an agency dates page. Mm-hmm. And actually that was it. And up here so first, really quick on the staff, that schmaltzy image of me. When you saw the map, you're able to go into our page and see how exactly to reach out to us. The great thing about these phone numbers is that they're the phone numbers to our actual desks, and not just a main number that you'll get a message at. So feel free to call us. These days we've been sharing our home phone numbers for anyone who want to reach out to us. Okay. But if you go to massculturalcouncil.org, which is our website, and just search for agency dates, okay, you will get this page, and you'll see on this side all the events that will come up. So every now and then there's a culture chat by Anita Walker, our executive director. This upcoming, you'll see like the different LCC office hours. Gosnold has one here, and this is when the LCCs from that. Sometimes we do it regionally, include everybody. Other times we do it individually with the
depending on what the LCC wants. If they want more me time, we'll do an LCC just for
them. Okay.
that team. So you can always find it on our LCC, on our agency dates, which is super simple to get via the search bar on our
So for the
website.
Plymouth area, we just search for the Plymouth Cultural Council and what's going on in our area.
You can search Plymouth and again, or you can reach out to Veronica, who's been doing a lot of work with the LCC lately, to find out when that specific, and those are open to the public. We do registration because, as you have probably heard, there have been a lot of people like Zoom bombing and just coming and doing inappropriate stuff with these things. So we try to make that public at the very end to specific registrants.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Louise, of the Mass Cultural Council. That's wonderful. And we'll have the people visit the website, and I'm sure we'll get more updates down the road. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Julie.
What is so funny about social distancing? Director Christopher Harting produced 6 Feet, a serious PSA with a humorous take.
I'm Christopher Harting, photographer and director, and I made this little film sort of as a public service announcement, but with a smile. Inspired by the work of Jacques Tati and Buster Keaton, our character here has a problem that he ultimately solves. John DeCoco is a former creative director who has his very own seersucker suit. The music's by Tom Pixton, a virtuoso accordion player and a close personal friend of mine. We shot this in 2 days, a couple of hours each session, and I think it went together very nicely. Like we now say, better to be 6 feet apart than to be 6 feet under.
Tiffany Phillips has some advice and apps for you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. In 2009, Apple came out with the tagline, "There's an app for that." It's actually very true. You want wine delivery? There's an app for that. You want Chinese food at 3 in the morning? There's an app for that. You want to relax during this really insane time that we're living in? There are several apps for that. In this new segment, we bring you information about different apps that you can use in your everyday life. This is Apps Untapped. Hi there, Tiff here. On our new platform, Apps Untapped, we're going to be chatting about all the different applications that you can use in your daily life to help better yourself. All of these apps are readily available in the App Store on your smart device. The first category we're diving into is the relaxation apps. I'm basically learning along with you because I don't really know a lot about relaxation apps, or relaxation for that matter, but I did do some research and I wanted to share it with y'all. Before we get started, I need to put out a disclaimer. I'm not a mental health professional, don't even play one on TV. If you really feel like you're stressed out or your anxiety is getting the better of you, you should probably talk to someone who's licensed to help you. But right now, this is just tips from one friend to another. I'm going to go over 2 apps today, Shine and Headspace. These apps have a free version that you can download from your app store, and free is always good. We're gonna tackle Shine first. So what you're gonna notice is that when you open up the page, it gives you a daily shine. This is sort of like a mantra for your day, something to aspire to and keep your mind focused on. At the bottom, you'll see 3 main sections. Today, which we already covered, library and discuss. The free library gives you a variety of categories for meditation and mindfulness. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but just know that if you have kids or parents that keep asking you why you're not married, you're gonna wanna hop on that. Next to the library, there's a discuss option, which gives you the topic of the day that you can write about. You'll also have a chance to read about what other people have to say about the topic. It's basically the same way Facebook works. You can like and react to other people's thoughts, but sorry, there's no cat gifs. Now that we know about how the app is set up, let's get really into it. There's a lot to like about this app. Let's talk more about the Daily Shine. When you open this section, it gives you today's and past shines. Today's Daily Shine is, your feelings are valid, but they don't control you. I really like this because it gives me something to think about for the day. Here you'll also be able to check in. It will prompt you with questions. Aside from the Daily Shine and check-in, the app has other ways to show you it cares. Shine sends you a notification through the day, just little notes to see how you're doing. It kind of feels like a warm hug from a friend, but for your phone. Like I said before, the library is free and offers an array of options for meditation and mindfulness. You'll see there are quick hitters. These include mindset, midday mood, and evening vibes. At the top, you'll notice categories too: stress and anxiety, sleep. I found the sleep category particularly helpful. Sometimes it's easy to get those looping thoughts before bed. Is my partner mad at me? Am I gonna have a nervous breakdown at work tomorrow? How do they get the mood inside of a Milky Way? This helps you focus on something else that's not Facebook or Instagram. It basically gives your brain a break. Now let's play with the discuss section. This gives you a prompt to write about. You can also see other people's posts as well. This is a great way to connect with others, and it's completely anonymous, so you don't have to worry about your privacy being violated. It's really easy to feel disconnected right now. It's kind of nice to see other people going through the same things that you are, so you don't feel so alone. I think we could all use a little human connection right now. All right, let's move on to Headspace. When you open up Headspace, you get this cute little sun that greets you before you get to the home page. There's the Wake Up, which is a daily tip for making your life easier. There's also a daily meditation, which they refer to as today's Headspace. There's also a meditation class and a community story, similar to the discussion page we had on Shine. And on the bottom, you'll see a section for sleep, move, and explore. FYI, the Move tab costs money, but don't worry, there are other free options available. As part of the homepage, you'll notice there's something called the Wake Up, which gives you a video with a daily tip to make your life a little easier. Today's Wake Up is caring for our minds during the healthcare crisis, which is pretty relatable at this point because we're all kind of reeling from what's going on. So they have an expert here to kind of teach you relaxation tips, to talk about any kind of issues you might be having, and to discuss ways we can get through it together. The sleep section is pretty rad. There are sleep casts, which are basically bedtime stories for adults. Like someone is sitting by your bed reading you a soothing tale. That's not a creepy visual, is it? Anyway, there's also wind downs, which are meditations to relax your body before you hit the hay. You can even pick whether you want a male or a female voice. I mean, who couldn't use this? Does anybody sleep anymore? The Explore section has a diverse set of tools for your metaphorical toolbox. One of the features you may like is called Weathering the Storm, which has great meditation and mindfulness techniques to support you during a crisis. In particular, the SOS meditation sessions help you while your mind and body are going through distress. So that's all I have for you today. Hope this gave you some resources to slip into your back pocket when you need them. This has been Apps Untapped. It's been great chatting with you. Until next time, be well.
Last Tuesday, Plymouth Select Board Chair Ken Tavares expressed dismay that people are continuing to crowd our waterfront, close together and without face coverings. It's imperative that we wear face masks in public gathering places to protect each other. And on April 29th in Plymouth, this became mandatory. That includes common areas, inside buildings, restaurant takeout areas, drive-through windows, and inside essential businesses that are open to the public. If you'd like to learn where you can purchase a mask locally or get instructions to make your own, visit our resource page at pactv.org, local scene. Erica Christensen is back with a school update.
Thanks, Elizabeth. With all the social distancing taking place right now, the arts have become an outlet for many. This especially holds true for local schools. But before we get into the arts, let's get into Kingston's Credit for Life program they held last month. The nationally recognized program is designed to help high school students develop personal financial management skills and was launched as a pilot program at Silver Lake back in March, with 150 high school juniors playing the roles of 25-year-old adults in assigned professions with annual salaries. The volunteers from local businesses interacted with the students, answering questions and helping fill out and check their budget sheets with the goal of getting students thinking about their financial futures.
So this station is the luxury station.
This booth is fitness and health.
I am running the community service booth.
I think Credit for Life is helpful for our students because it gives them a glimpse into a real life financial situation.
I can't make a bunch of luxury purchases and like extra things. I have to really focus more on the basics and paying off debt.
So many schools do Credit for Life, and we tried to make ours just a little bit different, where we had pre-lessons for our students. We wanted to be able to give them as many tools and resources as we could prior to the event, while still being able to deliver that shock factor.
It allows them to create a budget and explore a career and see if they are able to live within their means by looking at the different booths and taking a look at real life opportunities like how much is housing, how much do I need to set aside for transportation, and things like that.
Everybody needs to consider their monthly expenses and how much they have to work with at the end of the day, and whether or not they want to have any money left over for savings.
Kids come in and, they're not completely blindsided, but it's still, wow, I have this amount of money, I think I'm going to be able to, buy the world. But in reality, they might not be able to buy the world. So I think it wasn't too overwhelming for them. And thanks to the math department for their creative lessons, we were able to, prepare them enough, but still be able to deliver that shock factor. And I think it was executed perfectly.
I think it's so valuable for students here in their junior year to see, how much things cost and how to make a budget and how to get those things in their life that they think are really important. So I think this is a really amazing experience that connects adults and kids.
Students have the option of picking various things that you would do in a month that you could refrain from doing. So things like going shopping, getting your hair done, nails done, going on a vacation.
We're having the boys and girls spin the wheel, and what happens is they can win prizes, first of all, which is a good thing, but also they can have expenses, excise tax. One of their buddies is getting married and they've got to come up with $500. So what we're doing is we're having them spin the wheel, pick a card, and then find out how they're going to pay for it.
It's a booth about helping people looking at their budget and deciding whether or not they need additional income through a part-time job, or if they feel that they would like to donate some of their time to their community.
So the students come here and tell me their occupation, and then we have a discussion about how many years education is required for that occupation.
So over here, you're going to either buy a car, take public transportation, or decide that you're going to walk to work, or maybe use a company vehicle.
This is the housing booth, where kids have to decide if they can afford a house, or if they'd rather buy a condo, or if they don't have cash flow to buy those items, they may have to rent a single family apartment.
So it's choosing your health insurance, and then you have the option of choosing a gym membership also. So we felt like it went hand in hand.
So we're helping people with heat, electric, cell phone plans, internet cable, and then if you have money, we got some subscription plans for you.
So we're part of the Treasury Services Department. We help businesses with online banking products to help manage their cash flows.
Kids come up to us needing clothing depending on their occupation, and they will choose from one of three options and then their everyday wear.
So my station is about groceries, and not only purchasing groceries, but also how the groceries you purchase affect your overall nutrition as well.
I think the utilities and housing and car and education are probably the most realistic. It kind of gives them a sense of, can I afford to live on my own? Can I afford some of these expenses? Do I need to have a roommate or something like that to afford some of these items? I think it's mostly giving them a sense of what life costs, and I think that's an important part of this lesson. I think as they're looking at how much they make versus how much they get to spend.
It seems like people are learning reality, so this is great. And whatever way we can help you cut costs, we are here to help. So
you want to base your choice off of what your income is coming in and where you're comfortable.
I've talked to a few students, and one student said that things are so expensive that he would want to definitely have a roommate when he lives on his own for the first time. I thought that was a really good idea. Talked to another student who explained that he had a house but not enough money for furniture. So I think kids now realize, as they're making their way in the world, that they need to kind of budget in a smart way so they can have the things that they want.
So far, I'm budgeting it solidly. I just have to be really kind of conservative with how I spend my money.
I'm kind of facing the expenses of owning a house and trying to balance it with education.
So these kids are kind of assuming that they're 25-year-olds, so that starting income in their position seems realistic to me. And I think it's nicely paired with how much their education might be for those positions as well. So their monthly income might be a little bit lower than they expected based on their education that goes with those jobs. And then they get to make that decision about whether or not they want to go to a state school or a private school, and kind of balance balance those decisions too.
I think education was really important because I need to see how much I need to save in order to pay off loans. So
I feel like this one right here is most realistic, the utilities, because you have to figure out what you're going to do for a cell phone or subscriptions. So it was very realistic what you would be budgeting into your salary and stuff like that. So
I would recommend, honestly, to stay in school, go to college, see what you like.
Ultimately, my hope is that people pursue their dreams and their passions, because sometimes that will lead you down a road where you're better equipped to troubleshoot some of these real world problems. And with any hope, we're all doing what we love to do for a very long time. So
this opportunity to show us how to budget properly will really help us in the next few years when we graduate Silver Lake.
I think it's very well organized and really exciting for our staff and students.
So this is the first time that we have hosted a Credit for Life Fair here at Silver Lake. Our hope is moving forward that we will have it as an annual event, and it would be open in the future to all of our juniors each year, so that every student who comes to Silver Lake will have an opportunity to experience Credit for Life.
For Plymouth, in a recent episode of EdTV's PPS at Home, Beamer the service dog joined in on Navigation's Google Meet, continuing to provide support even from afar. Navigation is a special education program at Plymouth North High School for students with cognitive deficits, led by teachers Brandon Wernicke and Cam Hogg. Students met with their speech teacher, the OT, and one para on Google Meet to learn how to navigate Google Classroom together, where they're now working in small groups to have instruction. Great work from the teachers, students, and Beamer.
Hello and welcome back to the EdTV Update. We hope everyone's starting to get accustomed to remote learning and teaching lessons. Here's what's happening across our district. Beamer, the emotional support dog at PNHS, joined in on a navigation call this week over Google Meet. Navigation is a special education program at North High for students with cognitive deficits, led by teachers Brandon Wernicke and Cam Hogg. Students have the chance to connect with their speech teacher, a paraprofessional, and an occupational therapist to learn how to use Google Classroom together. Great work to these amazing students, teachers, and of course, Beamer. 2 art teachers at Cold Spring and Indian Brook have been encouraging students to participate in art projects from their own homes. Some of the projects they've done include object color wheels, items found in their junk drawers, and 3D rainbow drawings. They compile each student's work into a video at the end of each project for families to see. Keep up the great work. Panther TV students have been producing a series of COVID-19 interviews with Dr. Maestas to educate and update our community on how this pandemic is affecting our schools. These updates have been an innovative use of their broadcast journalism skills, and we're grateful to these students for helping to keep the community informed and engaged. PCIS music educator Andy Shaw invited his 7th and 8th grade students to a virtual meeting with special guest Dave Grossman from North High School. Grossman was invited to speak about his journey through high school and college, and he emphasized that his path to teaching music was not a straight line.
I went to a film camp, I went to an acting camp, I went to a singing camp, which I realized all these things sound nerdy, and I taught at a lacrosse camp because, like I said, I was playing lacrosse. And that's how I spent that summer. And without, hands down, the thing that I enjoyed the most, that was this is the way I want to spend my life, was the singing camp. Was the week of just being with music nerds and doing music stuff. But for some reason, it took me like a whole year to like take that experience and go like, this is the thing I want to do. You know, I'm very happy with what I do now in my life, and I do a lot of different things with music, and that came from just finding stuff that I enjoyed and following that avenue and taking the initiative and doing and just playing with stuff, trying new things, and seeing where it took me, and it's been pretty good.
Several PNHS students also joined in on the call. They offered advice to these future high schoolers who are looking to pursue music.
If you don't have time management, you're going to be in some trouble, but if you can figure out a healthy balance between your schoolwork and your music and your sports, then you're going to be fine. It's really not as overwhelming as everyone says, and you get plenty of time to you have enough time to do both.
Thank you to Mr. Shaw and Mr. Grossman for organizing this amazing virtual experience for students. At this time, we have over 100 volunteers packing bags, handing out, and delivering food to families across Plymouth. We are immensely appreciative of the many donations being made, along with the amazing assistance we've received from our community. Over 450 bags of food have gone out every week for the past several weeks, which is truly remarkable. If you are able to donate, please consider donating to the South Shore Community Action Council, as food items are still needed. SSCAC is an incredible organization that helps our community year-round. Visit bit.ly.com/ppsfood for more information. Special thank you to Lisa Adams, the volunteer coordinator, Plymouth Education Foundation, EAPC, Cobra, Cisco, Walmart, and Claychick for their donations and support to our food collection efforts. Thanks so much for watching this update. We'll see you next time. This has been Libby Hurley for EdTV.
Also, Panther TV News aired their first ever remote live broadcast via Google Meet on their Plymouth EdTV Facebook page. If you're interested in watching this much anticipated episode, culminated by these diligent reporters, please stay tuned for the recording to be posted later.
You have been with us all year, and we want you to know that we're still here with you.
We may have been stuck inside our homes for over a month, but we've been gathering news from our community, from inside our homes.
And we're here to bring you information as our community comes together to stay home, stay healthy, and fight COVID-19.
On Friday, May 1st, Panther TV comes to you like it has never before, live online at 7 p.m.
Tune in on Facebook as our school and Plymouth community shares their stories with you. We may not be in school, but the news never stops.
And neither do we. Until then, stay home and stay healthy.
And we hope to see you soon.
Earlier this month, both the all band and all choral departments from Duxbury Schools did an amazing virtual performance, providing some joy during this time. In the all band performance, you can even see Mr. Pondaco conducting the students despite all of them being home. In the words of Miss Nornberg, nothing stops the music.
My life goes on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the reel of far-off hymn, and there's a new creation. Above the tumult and the strife, I hear its music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep? How can I keep? How can I keep? How can I keep? How can I keep from singing? Although the tempest loudly roars, I hear the truth delivered. Though the darkness around me glows, something my heart to give it. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep? How can I keep? How can I keep? How can I keep? How can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble, sick with fear, and hear their death knell ringing, friends rejoice so far and near. How can I keep from singing? In prisons and cells of dungeons, bells to them are ringing. Friends by shame are defiled. How can I keep? How can I keep? How can I keep? How can I keep? How can I keep from singing? From singing? From singing?
In Pembroke, with remote learning being a more prevalent tool in our lives, two local art teachers, Miss Masa and Miss Mota, are encouraging students to stay creative and continue their work in their art projects. There are some amazing projects being submitted by these amazing students. With much of the world retreating under the threat of the novel coronavirus, art serves as a salve in this time of need. Thank you to everyone for doing their part. Back to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Erica. It's so important to know that our school community is still connected. The Sunrise Rotary Club of Plymouth wants to help locally owned restaurants while feeding Plymouth families in need during the COVID-19 crisis. Each week, the Rotary Club partners with sponsors to purchase meals from local restaurants to provide dinner for families experiencing financial hardship. This is a community effort that can make a difference to your neighbors and neighborhood businesses. If you're interested in sponsoring, contact Bob McMakin at sunriserotary4226@gmail.com. Restaurant owners can contact Bob Hollis at rhollis@hollisagency.com. And lastly, if you are or know of a family in need of this program, please visit the Rotary's website to sign up. Together, we can support, nourish, and rebuild our community. New England Open Markets is proud to announce their very first virtual marketplace, hosting over 60 of the area's top makers, artists, and designers. Support the artists, small businesses, and creatives you know and love from the safety of your own home. The first marketplace takes place Saturday, May 2nd from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Visit the New England Open Market website and start shopping. For more details, visit their Facebook page. Reading with a therapy dog has been a popular activity for kids at our libraries, and you'll be happy to know that Maisie the therapy dog has learned to use Zoom. Okay, with a little help from Ms. Marissa. On Mondays through May at 2 o'clock, the Duxbury Free Library is hosting 15-minute Zoom sessions with Maisie. Your kids will love it. Check out the Duxbury Free Library's website to register. If you're looking for a way to occupy time at home, Pronunciator is a fun way to learn any of the 163 available new languages with personalized courses, movies, and music. All free with your Kingston Public Library card. The program has an average of 10,000 instructional phrases per language, making it easy to personalize to your own needs. To learn more, visit the library's website. Noah Whelpley was on his way to becoming an Eagle Scout for Plymouth Troop 1620 when the COVID-19 crisis nearly derailed his plans. But with a little help, he was able to achieve his goal. We asked Noah to share his story.
Hi, my name's Noah Whelpley, and I'm a Boy Scout with Troop 1620 of Plymouth. I recently completed my Eagle Scout project, which is a large service project which we have to complete in order to achieve the highest rank in Scouting, Eagle. My project was to reconstruct an old, broken-down fence for the Chiltonville Congregational Church. I'd been working on this project for about 6 months when the coronavirus pandemic hit, which threw a huge wrench into our plans, as we had planned to get together about 20 people to work on it. However, we managed to overcome this with the help of our local scouting officials and church officials, and we came up with a plan to build a fence while respecting social distancing guidelines. What we did was we got together with my family and one other family, my friend, and my family worked on one section of the fence, while about 50 feet away, the other family worked on another section at the same time. In this way, we were able to get the fence done in like 2.5 days, and we expected it to take a week. So we were actually very successful in this troubling time. I'm really excited that I managed to get this done, and I'm really thankful for all the support that the Scouts have given me and the church has given me. Now all I have left is a couple of meetings in the next couple of months, and I'll be a full-fledged Eagle Scout.
Friends of Dorothy is a support group for LGBTQ+ adults 18 years or older, which usually meets at the Plymouth Bay House, but has currently switched to virtual meetings via Zoom. If you feel like you could use a little support, community, or just need to chat, you are invited to log in and join the group on Fridays from 2 to 4:30 p.m. If you attend, ensure you're in a private area so that the privacy of other attendees is respected. Zoom information is on the group's Facebook page. For questions, call Jason Ranieri at 508-737-6871. And if you are an LGBTQ+ youth, Shagley, the South Shore Alliance for Gay and Lesbian Youth, has virtual groups every Monday night from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. If you would like to join in on these meetings, email shagley@gmail.com. An upside of quarantine is the flow of creative juices. Spoken word artist Shane Maynor sent us her piece, Small Town, which reflects on the lives of small business owners struggling through the challenges of the COVID-19 crisis. Watch for the tip of the hat to poet Allen Ginsberg.
Hi, I'm Shane Maynor,
I'm Daniel Arthur Gurley.
and this is a poem for small business owners. Cracked pecan shells line Main Street, with signs like tombstones that read "For sale" and "For rent," a plead before the exorcism of being condemned. True haunted houses can be found here, and somewhere between the drive home and realizing I would be unemployed soon, and seeing a woman who must have been around 62, walking in the rain with a resume. Somewhere around the fallen down mills, somewhere around nowhere, I fell in, crawled in to one of those holes in the bricks, and behind a soapbox I wept. There have been so many, with dreams as big as Mount Rushmore, with a determination as strong as the mountain it's carved upon. So I ask you, what is all this rubble for? Grown men being snapped behind sleepless eyes cry for their talents being traded for wages, when they could have made a difference instead of a payment. And you want to know what I saw, Mr. Ginsberg? I'll tell you what I saw. I saw the best minds of my generation led astray by the greatest false prophets of the decade. There's a kid on the corner of Queens as we speak with a gun in his lap, and there isn't anything we can do about that. There are men selling doorways to money that only leads to flies stuck in honey. Prison overflows with kids who only needed a way to build a home. I saw my friends trade God-given gifts like tricks, underpaid till finally they gave in and sold the greatest gift they had and tried to hide it with a lie called resilience when they could have been brilliant. I saw my peers get swept up in the wave of technology, gadgets overflooding, in a world that's turning far too fast for anybody to keep up or keep going. It takes money to make money. And the poor who can't afford just struggle to survive and to support. There are toddlers in school with busted veins, just trying to keep up with new workloads and new ways so they can gain enough knowledge. But to me, it's disgusting and heartless. I don't care about your new iPhone, your new app. This is not a poor kid's rant. It's just more evidence of the monster America is, because what's really valid is deemed tragic. I saw kids like stray cats scratching city walls with their fingernails while the world tugged on their tails, howling into the heart of America for an answer, while our own parents cried lullabies sung in the tune of the American dream, desperately trying to instill the belief that we could be anything we wanted to be. Wrapped us in the hope that the world wouldn't wrap us in those red bars, trap us in the blue tar, and by the mercy of God, not blind us by those white stars. White lies we have been told all our lives. Now we all use each other's arms as braces, wear the mud of resistance on our faces, narrow our eyes in the stance that you will not take this from us. Not our dreams, not our gifts. I will fling my soul across the slick stones of Paris before I bleed in the gutters of America. I will find a path that you have not crossed, and I will make my stand as a human being, not a loss. And you? Well, you can run the circles of a NASCAR race for all I care. Because by God and His glory, I will find my own place right here. Keep going, entrepreneurs. We love you. It is possible. This won't last forever. Come out the other side on top.
For more of Shane's work, visit her website at shanemanor.com. There were thankful folks all around on April 17th when, in an overwhelming show of solidarity and support, dozens of police cruisers, ambulances, and fire engines paid tribute to the hard-working medical staff at Beth Israel Deaconess. Hospital workers reciprocated the kind gesture with cheers of their own. Local residents joined in to support, from a safe distance, an uplifting way to honor heroes on both sides of the front lines. By popular demand, we're bringing back Socially Distant Fest.
So hold my hand, I'll walk with you, my dear.
The stairs creak as you sleep, it's keeping me awake.
It's the house telling you to close your eyes.
Some days I can't even trust myself.
It's killing me to see you this way. 'Cause though the truth may vary, this ship will carry our bodies safe to shore.
There's an old voice in my head that's holding me back.
Well, tell her that I miss our little talks.
Soon this will be over and buried with our past.
We used to play outside when we were young, full of life and full of love.
Some days I don't know if I am wrong or right.
Your mind is playing tricks on you, my dear. 'Cause though the truth may vary, this ship will carry our bodies safe to shore. Hey! Don't listen to a word I say. Hey! The screams all sound the same. Though the truth may vary, this ship will carry our bodies safe to shore.
You keep saying you got something for me, something you call love, but confess you've been a messin' where you shouldn't have been a messin'. Hi Zach, and now someone else is getting all your best. These boots are made for walking, that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you. You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. You keep losing when you ought to not bet. You keep saving where you shouldn't be changing. And now what's right's right, you ain't been right yet. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you.
Socially Distant Fest has a showcase every Sunday. If you're interested in performing, please email howdy@sociallydistantfest.com. Local Matters is a production of the local scene of PAC TV. To find a complete list of resources mentioned in this show, visit our website at pactv.org/local scene. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook to keep updated on new stories and the ways that we shine a light on you. Now, more than ever, we need each other. PAC TV is here for you. Stay safe.